Go outside in the Northeast today, you better bundle out. It is the coldest Thanksgiving ever here in New York City, and these frigid temperatures you'd think might stop people, but they're not. Not stopping thousands from gathering along the parade route here in Midtown Manhattan. And Brian Yennis is among those braving the cold as well. Brian, looks like the parade's over.
Yeah, well, it's over in this section. Remember, it's a 2.5-mile route, so the parade is still continuing down by 34th. It ends at noon, but millions of people, over 3 million people lined up the parade route this morning for hours. You know, it starts at 9, but people were here at 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, and it was the coldest Thanksgiving Day parade in New York City's history. This parade started in 1924. The temperature this morning was 20 degrees. That breaks the record from 1930 when it was 21 degrees. It's not only the coldest Thanksgiving Day parade, it's the coldest Thanksgiving Day for millions of Americans in the Northeast, including here in New York. It's going to be the coldest Thanksgiving since 1901. And yesterday, they blew up the Thanksgiving Day balloons, those 16 giant characters that are famous all over the world. And there was a concern this morning that the winds were going to be so strong that they weren't going to be able to fly them. Well, luckily, they were able to fly them this morning, although they were a little lower than normal, just out of a precaution because of the gusty winds. The mayor told everybody here to bring all of their, well, every single piece of warm clothing they had, and people were mostly here. I mean, the crowd looked exactly like it looked last year when it wasn't as cold. And, you know, it's not just here in New York. The record temps are all over the Northeast, from Maine to Virginia, from the teens to the 30s here. It's going to break records for millions of people. And by the way, for travel, last night, everything seems to be looking good in terms of what we see in the air. But last night, there was an Amtrak train, 68, traveling from Montreal to New York City. 2 of the cars actually separated during that train ride, and 278 passengers were forced to move on to another train. So there were some issues there with travel. But again, Rick, over 54 million people traveling, over 3 million people here enjoying Thanksgiving Day parade. And so far, in terms of travel delays, nothing really crazy at the airports. No major cancellations or delays. And the Thanksgiving Day parade, by the way, this year was absolutely beautiful, despite it being bitterly, bitterly cold. Diana Ross, John Legend, Bad Bunny, Goku, the new balloon this year, was fantastic. So it was a good time. I don't know if you guys know Goku, but that's from Dragon Ball Z back in the day. So.
I just hope these people who are coming to New York for the first time to watch this parade know that it's not normally this cold here, that this is unusual. Because
this is unusual. What is today? November 22nd. It's really cold.
November? No, it shouldn't.
Yeah, it's really cold.
And to be clear, they inflated the balloons, Brian. It sounded like you said they blew them up, but they weren't blowing them up. But they were blowing them up.
You're right. I apologize.
You're right.
They inflated them. They weren't blowing. They weren't destroying them.
Good. That's good to know. What was your favorite float? Your favorite?
I gotta say it was Goku. He's a Dragon Ball Z anime character. It's the first year they did it. I think it was among the biggest ever, too. Usually it's the Grinch, though. The Grinch always gets me every year.
Hey, Brian, have you had any sighting of Diana Ross?
I didn't get to see her, you know what? And John Legend, though, he went right past us, but he was on the other side of the float, so that didn't do us any good because we were on the other side of the street. But I saw him from behind. He looked, waving at everybody. I like his music.
When I walked in here this morning, well before 7 a.m., the people were sitting out there in blankets and coats and hats and gloves, huddled against the cold, waiting for the parade.
But you know what? If you don't live here and you're here, you got to enjoy it. And like you said earlier, you have to see it at least one time.
I think it's worth it.
I think so.
I actually think it's worth it. Yeah. You know,
American
New Year's Eve, I think you do it once. New Year's Eve, I think you do once in Times Square, maybe. But Thanksgiving Day parade, I would do it more than once, despite it being cold, for sure.
I think I've done New Year's Eve 15 times in Times Square, but that's another story. Brian Yennis, thank you very much.